Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Tuesday, July the 9th, 2024. So, taking a look at the latest true color visible satellite imagery from tropicaltidbits.com at Dr. Levi Cowan's website, link in the description below this video. And we can see here is the remnants of Beryl as it tracked across the Caribbean as a historic Category 5 hurricane, the earliest, most intense hurricane ever recorded this early in the Caribbean and in the Atlantic Basin, as it tracked across the Yucatan and then into the Gulf and then made landfall very close to Houston. Now is over here in the upper Midwest, where it's bringing heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and the continuation of tornadoes. We had a mighty tornado outbreak yesterday, and this system is going to still cause a lot of problems as it continues to move off towards the northeast and moves over the Great Lakes region, portions of the Great Lakes into the northeast, bringing more rain there. But otherwise, taking a look at the rest of the imagery here, we are not seeing anything too unusual. We have a lot of wind shear across the Caribbean. That's why we're not seeing anything right now. That's why Beryl got sheared in the first place. We have more tropical waves coming off of Africa, but this time around we have a suppressive environment, a unfavorable environment for tropical cyclogenesis to go on, because we have Saharan dust and we got a lot of drier air coming off of Africa, what is known as SAL, or the Saharan air layer. So when we take a look at the latest 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center, this is in the next 7 days. So this is a week out into time. We don't have anything to be concerned about at all in the Atlantic, at least in the short term or even in the medium term, other than we have remnants of Beryl moving over Missouri and Illinois at this given time. But right now, looking pretty quiet for the time being. But there are indications down the road, possibly by late July into early August, we might have to watch the tropics very closely yet again for more tropical activity, especially coming off of Africa, as we're slowly transitioning into our Cape Verde or Cabo Verde season, where these waves come off of Africa and they get spiraling and they get going as they move westward. Now, taking a look at our latest GFS model, this is the American model ran by the National Weather Service, looking at a 3-plot system courtesy of tropicaltidbits.com. This is vorticity in the color shading. We have our lines. These are the thicknesses. And in simple words, these are the wind barbs that you can see here that show the wind direction and speed. So a nice look here at the 3-plot system. And as we can see now, we have this ridge of high pressure, a more stronger ridge that is helping to guide any tropical waves off of Africa, generally westward. Very broad, nothing to be concerned about. There's no chances of any tropical formation, at least in the next 7 days. That's a guarantee at this given point, but things could change later on as we get deeper into the Cape Verde season. As we go into the next 5 to 6 days, again, you can see nothing really to be concerned about. Strong ridge to the north, very stable Saharan air layer really in place. So any tropical wave coming off of Africa is not going to do so well at all. And do I rarely go out to 10 days? That's because there's really nothing to speak of right now, nothing unusual, other than we have a tropical wave here and we have another tropical wave coming off of Africa. And again, that vorticity in yellow really illustrates we're not seeing a whole lot of spin in the atmosphere, more broad in nature, and usually broad systems are not going to be easy to spin up or to organize. And with a lot of Saharan dust coming off of Africa, these systems are going to struggle at least through the 18th or the 20th of July. But beyond that, looking in the long range, which I don't like to do in my videos, we could start seeing more aggressive, more agitated tropical waves coming off of Africa, with one that could be showing up here off of Africa by the 25th of July. And it's between about the 23rd, 24th of July and beyond where we might have to really start watching for more aggressive, more convergence, more tropical wave activity that could allow systems to develop yet again. After all, this is going to be a very busy season. We're already seeing signs of that with Beryl being a Category 5, 160, 170, 165, 175 miles an hour, which is very strong for this time of the year. And that racked up almost 40 ace points. So we are now the most active Atlantic hurricane season ever recorded since modern era, since satellite modern era began. Just to give you some illustration on that, and it's only early July. A look at the European model, looking at a similar plot here, going forward in time, we can see again strong Bermuda high in place, Azores high. There is Beryl moving over to the Great Lakes. A lot of spin remaining with that system. This is not really weakening at all. It's more of a cyclone, more of a classic with a cold front and warm front, more of a subtropical system. But then as we look in the deep tropics here on the European model, we are not seeing any signs of any tropical formation. However, there is that tropical wave coming off of Africa and then another one behind it. And we're going to have to keep an eye on these two in future model runs. It's nothing to be afraid of right now. It is really far out. But please note that we are starting to see these winds coming in out of the west, and where we have this trade wind belt to the north of the Cabo Verde Islands, and this usually augments vorticity, and sometimes things could go the wrong way if things come together perfectly, if we have a lot of moisture in hand, and the upper level pattern allows that. We can get some systems that develop pretty quickly and aggressively, and that's exactly what Beryl did. It came off as a tropical wave like this, and then it really just took full advantage. So yeah, we're not going to be able to take our eyes off the Atlantic from here on out because of what models can do. Some things pop up and some things don't. And that's why we're here making videos nearly on an everyday basis. A look at the moisture plot from the European model. Brown shading is drier air. Turquoise and green colors are lots of moisture in the atmosphere. So when we go forward in time here, we can see that there's a lot of dry air out here. Subsidence, air sinks and it warms, and it's pretty stable, right? So it's drier air overlapping moist air can thermodynamically allow a lot of convection, but in this case we have warmer air with that drier air, so we're not able to get any convection going. And so in this case, we can see over the next several days, lots of drier air coming off of Africa. And every time we get these big tropical waves, this one looks a little bit more promising. But all these waves beforehand, just so much drier air in place. And systems don't like that. They don't like the dry air. They don't like the shear. And they don't like the Saharan air layer, which is a dry, dusty air that comes off of Africa. And speaking of Saharan dust, here's a look at the dust forecast on the GOES model. This is a satellite representation of what the dust is going to look like. And we can see a lot of dust approaching the windward, leeward, greater Antilles, lesser Antilles, and we have more dust coming off of Africa. And again, as long as that dust remains very, very intense and this far south, there is going to be a lot of inhibition of any tropical formation. As we go forward over the next, say, 5 days, still a lot of dust coming off of Africa, but take note here, by the end of the model run, we're going to start seeing this dust slowly lift northward, and usually that's a sign of what's to come by late July and early August. And after all, this is supposedly going to be a hyperactive season. It already seems like one after Beryl, and it's no surprise. Because once this Saharan dust goes far enough north, we get westerly winds here. We get these tropical waves that develop. Things could get ugly very quickly. Now, some of you are wondering, where are we at to date as far as the Atlantic hurricane season, as far as our accumulated cyclone energy? A measurement of how much energy cyclones have given off to date. And right now we are running well ahead of schedule. This is by far the most, okay? On an ACE perspective, the number of named storms does not quite match of what we had in 2020, but that's for another story. Quality beats quantity at this point. And theoretically, we only had 3 named storms so far, but we also have a world record breaking ACE score right now. We have never seen this amount of energy this early in the Atlantic season ever recorded. never recorded at least since the early 1900s. So the fact that we have 36.13 ACE points right now, the units of measurement, our average is 4.6. So we're well ahead of schedule. In fact, something rings a bell here. The 2005 Atlantic hurricane season, we all remember that one. That was a very busy season. That gave, let me highlight this, that gave 245 ACE points. So I'm going to highlight that. 2005, 245 ACE points. That was a hyperactive season. And this to date, ACE at this given time in 2005 was only 22.99 to be exact, but rounded up about 23 ACE units. So the fact that we're at 36 this year means we are well ahead. We are double the climatology or even quadruple the climatology for this time of the year. And this is used for a reason. I mean, we are outside of the scope. The rough range is here, the lightest green colors, and then you get your darker shade of green, then your most likely outcome here. This is your net average. And so we are well ahead of schedule. And if we draw a line here really quickly, so I'm rumbling about this a little bit, we are equating our ACE energy to about September the 8th and the 9th. Yeah, we are well ahead of schedule. So if we did not get any more named storms or any more ACE points until early September, we would still be at somewhat above average. So in other words, there is no way this season's going to end up being below average. It's very, very unlikely at this given time, just because we had Beryl, that was a Category 5 long-tracked hurricane that racked up a lot of ACE points, and that is where we stand. So for those that are curious, that our season is hyperactive, and there is some evidence to back that up for you all. Before you guys say I'm hyping things up, I'm scaring you all, I'm causing a lot of fear mongering, I'm not here to cause that, all right? Just understand that. If you don't like watching me, well, you can watch someone else. I really don't mind that at all. But what I do care about is looking at statistical data, where we are at and where we're headed. And where we're headed is big trouble. That's all I gotta say. So this look at the latest ocean analysis, tropical cyclone heat potential. And right now, even with Beryl barely did anything. It chugged away a little bit of upper ocean heat content over here, but this is going to recover very, very quickly. Still untapped upper ocean heat content over here over Jamaica, over the Cayman Islands, Grand Cayman, and even the loop current here. We're seeing numbers that we have not seen ever. These are some historic numbers, folks, with upper ocean heat content. And there's even a little island here. You draw a line that is up to about 160 units. So that is exceptional. I mean, you get a tropical storm. We know what happened, right? When Beryl went over the Eastern Caribbean, it utilized that upper ocean heat content, a lot of moisture, very little shear, and you saw what we got. We had a 175, that is mile-an-hour hurricane. Now I remembered off the top of my head. Sorry if I forget things a little easy here. Been a long day and been a busy one. So yeah, you can see how strong Beryl got in early July. It was 175 mile an hour super hurricane. Super, in my opinion. They should start using that word, like super typhoon, super hurricane. Majors are 3 and 4, supers are 5. So now, where are we headed from here? What's next after Beryl? And some of you are probably asking that question. Well, there is a opportunity here. By the time we go into towards the end of July, especially, and I need to zoom this out because you guys don't know what region we're looking at here. So this is the Atlantic right here. I hope you are following me very well on this without losing you guys, losing your interest. This is a Mercator projection, a Hofmolar diagram. This is showing us our potential velocity. So green areas are upward motion, and red and orange areas are sinking motion. It's not really the center of the upward motion where we're most concerned about. We're looking at anywhere in between this. So this is going to be our most favorable region, because you can think about when air rises, you get easterly winds aloft, and then you get westerly winds at the surface that augments vorticity. That's why actually our most favorable environment is after the MJO has moved over the Atlantic into Africa. And that's what we're seeing here. So it does appear that potentially, now other factors here, this is just one of those, looks to get more active potentially after the 19th of July as this MJO moves overhead, and we get the perfect environment by late July and early August. We have another outbreak of tropical activity. Really not an outbreak yet, going a little ahead of myself, but we're certainly going to see an uptick. Africa, lots of rising motion, a seedling brutal ground or breeding ground for tropical waves that propagate over the Sahel region into Western Africa, the intertropical convergence zone, and they move off into the Atlantic and they develop. And things look pretty promising, unfortunately, for late July and early August, and the door could be open for more tropical wave activity, and we could see more named storms thereafter. So when we take a look here, here's the post that we are looking at. Maybe it's down here a little further on Philip Klocksbog's Twitter page. All right, I believe I found it. And here's a look at what Colorado State University is saying and why they think this season's going to be above average. These are all La Nina years, by the way, in the Eastern Pacific, how they relate to the Atlantic. And we can see this forecast, which I'll show you in the next tab, is calling for 25 named storms. That includes Alberto, Beryl, and Chris. 12 hurricanes, so we have 11 more to go. And then 6 major hurricanes. Yeah, 6 major. That's a very scary number, folks. Our average for major hurricanes is nearly at around 2 to 3 per average season. And the average here is 5.7, so we're even above average of above average, in other words. So while 6 seems like a low number, well, there could be 5 more major hurricane landfalls in the United States or in the Lesser Antilles, or maybe one of those could hit Bermuda. We don't know yet. So this is concerning. This is a wake-up call for a lot of you that are watching. This season is not done yet. It is not done. And I am very concerned. We could have very much a hyperactive season. And in the next post, this is a look at the latest as of July 9th. So that is today's Atlantic Hurricane Seasonal Forecast from Colorado State University from Philip Klocksbog that makes these. So thank you, Klocksbog, for releasing your Atlantic Hurricane Seasonal Forecast. You are the best. You're the most accurate as far as predicting the season. And he goes on to saying that we have had 3 named storms. So we have, in other words, we have 22 named storms to go. But that 22 could be a really big number that is still utilizing the entire alphabet in this outlook. And this really stands out to me. When we look at this, major hurricanes up to 6. 3.2 is your average. Okay, 3.2. So we're going to be doubling that nearly. 6 may not seem like a low number, but it is it doesn't seem like a high number, but it truly is. Let me reword that to not cause any confusion. So 6 is a big number, and this is to be taken really seriously. Mark Seddon has even talked about this. I'm sure you over there, Philip Klocksbog, are talking about this too. And the accumulated cyclone energy is 230 ACE points. Well, I think we could breach that. The way we're going right now with an all-time record high ACE point, the fastest growing Atlantic hurricane season ever recorded, we could breach that easily, I think. We could see 200 and my prediction, in my opinion, is calling for 275 ACE points. Yeah, that's a very high number. And this is quality over quantity. In other words, you could have 30 hurricanes and have the highest ACE point possible, or you could have 30 tropical storms and have a very low ACE point. In other words, okay, so ACE score is very important in judgmenting the quality and performance of a hurricane season over the quantity, the number of named storms, if that makes sense. And we're also looking at, by the way, I just want to make this clear to you all that, let me see here, we're looking at another 11 hurricanes. Yeah, it only takes a category 1, folks, and I've seen some of the footage, some of the damage that we've had from Beryl, and I'm telling you, it looks like a category 3 or 4 has hit Houston, Texas, and portions there of, say, Bay City, Texas. I'm not kidding when I say that. An 80-mile-an-hour hurricane can do a lot, folks. Do not underestimate this. Even a tropical storm could just be as bad as a Category 1 hurricane. Think about it. Moisture impacts, rain, wind, storm surge, that's shenanigans. You got to take that all into account, not just wind. Yes, 80 miles an hour is not that strong with Beryl when it made landfall, but 2, you had 7 foot of storm surge, and you also had almost 2 feet of rainfall in some areas. So there's your kind of trade-off from an 80-mile-an-hour hurricane, if that makes sense. But anyways, if you did enjoy today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Tuesday, July the 9th, 2024, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, as I work very hard at making these outlooks on a near everyday basis. That's what I'm going to probably have to end up doing right now. And when we have a system threatening land, I will be going live on it. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button and share this video with their family and friends on social media, and ring the bell notification icon for latest notifications every time I live stream or make a YouTube video, or even as simple as a YouTube short. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll be back with you more tomorrow.